There you go.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Newport Hills Community Club's general membership meeting. And this is our spring general membership meeting. It's nice to see everybody here. This is also the start of our new fiscal year. We run through start in April. So we appreciate that folks were able to pay their dues again, the big $10 again for the year. So we appreciate all of you who did that. That was great. I'd like to take just a quick moment to introduce our board, our executive committee this year. Ann Brashear in the back, she's my co-president. And I'm Ann Rittenhouse. And so, sorry, you have to say either Ann B or Ann R when you talk about us. And it's also confusing because we each are married and we have husbands named Ed. So that makes it really confusing for everybody. But we're happy to be co-presidents this year. Ellen Henman is not here yet. She said she's going to be late. She's our secretary this year. Our treasurer is Heidi S. We have two Heidis now too, so this is Heidi S. And then Shannon Johnson is our VP, and he's not able to make it tonight. But we've got it's a great group, and all of our board members, which are in, we've got people waving here.
Raise your hand if you're on the board.
Yeah, if you're a board member, if you are one of the trustees for the areas, they're the folks that pass out the newsletters that you get on your door. So that they're very helpful. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Heidi S. And she is going to give the treasurer's report.
Hi. So this is for March. Is it? Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is
Whoops.
March.
You got to go one back.
Yes.
There we go.
Our expenses for February was $885.86, which is unusual because we have a couple of things that we were doing. Our income was $9.22. Our balance is $5,824.14, and our checking and $3,717.86 in our CD, which totals $9,530.
Hey, Heidi, I have a question. Is this a really expensive month because of all those things that went on?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so typically, not every month is that, right?
That's better. Thank you.
Yes, for the egg hunt, we have to pay insurance and pay the school to allow us to use their parking lot. So, and that event is until April, but we have to pay it ahead of time to reserve it. Okay, all right. Okay, and then next up is our budget for this year. It's our 2026 budget, and what we did is we tried to show you what our budget was last year versus what it is, what our budget will be this year. They're really close to the same thing. There's just been a couple things that have changed, but they're very close to the same thing. And we, our events pretty much are staying the same. Several things have come down. I know this is a silly thing to say, but the library now gives you $5 a week free printing. And so for some of our things now, we're sending them to the library and getting them printed for free instead of having to pay 2 or 3 times as much for things when we, at UPS or whatever. That was another change also. Unfortunately, our local mailboxes closed, the Newport Hills mailbox is closed. So we had to get a new mailbox at the UPS store and the Safeway Plaza. And that was a little bit more expensive than what we were paying here. And we had to overlap for several months to be sure everybody saw that we had a new address. And so we were actually paying it twice last year for a few months. But one of the things that has been really wonderful is Pastor Bug, who I'd like to introduce back there. He's running our slideshow for us. He's the pastor here at Newport Community Church, and they very graciously allow us to use their space, not only their sanctuary here for our general membership meetings, but they allow the board to meet here in the church once a month, free. a charge. So that's very nice. So that's one of the reasons we try really hard to support their food bank and some of the other things that they might do. So we appreciate all the folks who do this. All right, I don't know if anybody has any questions about the proposed budget. Go ahead.
So I see a small increase from 10,000 to 11,651. What I'm trying to look at what the biggest cost increases are on this spreadsheet at this time.
Okay, so no, that's a good question. So one is the mailbox. The other one is our recurring storage unit is $75 a month. Now that's supposed to go down to $42. That's the Newcastle heated storage over behind QFC in Newcastle. And that's where we've had our storage shed for quite a while. And they did take it down to $42, but then they redid their accounting system and we got booted back up. So we're gonna ask them again. Heidi S has a storage unit there personally, and so she's gonna touch base with them to get that back down. But I don't, the other biggest thing is that the directors and officers insurance, liability insurance, that we didn't have that a couple years ago, and we did put that in for this year. I think our printing costs have gone up just a little bit for the newsletter that we do. And the other thing, we did print a lot of the signs that you see out that say general membership meeting or the egg hunt or the holiday lights. All of those signs, almost all of them had to be reprinted. And so some of those had to be reprinted this year. So there was an increase for some of that. Does that answer your question, or are there a couple more things? Okay, yeah. So they were all little things. That's what we didn't see it go up a whole lot. But we also have a lot of people who generously give more than $10 for their membership, so we get a lot of donations, especially the egg hunt is one of our more expensive events, but we also bring in a lot of people give donations or join at that time. Did you have a question back there, son?
I was just going to comment, like, it looks like it's actually gone down, the budget, like from 6,549. You might be looking at the remainder.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I was looking at the remainder. So
No,
thank
I
you.
am, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right, yeah. So we are trying one of the recommendations was not to put any more money into our CD. We had a CD that was kind of like our rainy day fund, and we decided that we really don't need to put any more in that because we're doing really good. Our membership has actually increased a little bit this year. We have 250 members, and which is really nice. We wish that we get a few more volunteers too. So if you're interested in volunteering, see one of the board members with the blue name tag on. We'd love to have your help for passing out flyers. One of the upcoming, actually I'll talk about that in a minute, but are there any other questions about the budget? Okay. We do actually need to vote on the budget.
But we need to make sure we have a quorum first. We need
Yes.
25 members. If you are a member, please raise your hand, recognizing that only one member per household, so if you've brought a date and you both live in the same house, only one of you should raise your hand.
Ed, you can raise your hand. You can vote.
Which end?
Yeah, which end? There you go. Now, Steve, yeah, there you go. Okay, do we have, and that includes if you join tonight, so. $24, $25, I think I have. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Hello.
Yeah. 26. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay, I
a
think we
squeak,
have
but
at
that's
least
enough.
26. Yeah, okay, great. So we do have a quorum, and we'll make note of that we do actually have a quorum. So could I have a motion to approve the proposed budget? Thank you, Steve. Second, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
I have a question.
Oh.
It's so small, I can see something, but
Okay.
that means nothing to me. I see something.
Right, okay. And so do Do you, I can give you my copy, if that's helpful. Can you read this copy? Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. I think the biggest point in the budget is that we are not running in the red. We have a very healthy balance in our checking account. Our new fiscal year does start April, and we will have a couple of expensive events, including the egg hunt, but it's so worth it for the community. The egg hunt is really fun, whether you have kids or not, and it really brings the community together. We have a lot of really great events. All right, do you have any other questions about it? Or can we go ahead and vote? We've had a motion. Yeah, I'm sorry, what? Okay, thank you. We have someone calling for the question, so let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of the budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time so the budget passes. And then real quickly, we're just going to talk about some of our upcoming events. I've been talking about the egg hunt, and Heidi and I are chairing that. Heidi S. and I are chairing that this year. And it is going to be another fun event. So even if you just come just to watch it, it's just fun to see the kids have a good time. And we do need a few volunteers for that to do little things like monitor the kids. We have little tattoos that we're gonna, kids can put on. A jelly bean guessing contest. So there's a few things like that we could use a little bit of help with. So if you'd like to help, please see me or the other Ann or Heidi S. after the meeting, and we'll be glad to take down the digits. Okay, the garden tour. That is really fun. I don't know how many of you have been on the garden tour. So it is a really fun event, and it's actually a no-cost event. All it really is just bringing folks together in the community to go tour some of the wonderful gardens in Newport Hills. And we have a lot of really nice gardens in Newport Hills. That is going to be on Saturday, June 20th, and we'll meet at the old First Bank building. I'll tell you how long I've lived here, 41 years. That I know. I remember when the bank used to be there. We're going to start at 10 o'clock, and what we will do is we will either carpool or caravan to the gardens. At one time, it was called a garden walk, but Newport Hills is too big to walk between the gardens. The only thing about that is we do need a couple more gardens. So if you have a nice garden that you wouldn't mind sharing, a yard that you wouldn't mind sharing and having us as a group walk through, it's a supervised event. They don't come in your house. You know when we're coming. I text you when we leave one yard and we're coming to your house, and we just walk through your yard and answer questions. One of the folks who is graciously putting her garden in the tour this year has been setting aside plants that she's been thinning out, and she's saving them for us. So when we get to her house, if people want some of her plants, she's going to give them to you. So that's kind of nice. But if you do know anybody that has a nice garden, we can use a couple more gardens on our tour. And then we have our ice cream social on July 19th. That will be at the Woodland Park, Newport Hills Woodland Park, from 2 to 4. We do also have a music night in the works for August. A date hasn't been set yet, so you can check our website when that comes up. All right, I don't know if anybody has any other questions for me or about the community club before we turn it over to our guest speaker. The 4th of July. So we are not doing a formal activity on the 4th of July. We have in the past, but we haven't done one for, yeah. So there won't be a big 4th of July celebration here. All right, okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, well, with that, I will introduce our first guest speaker. It's John Harrison with the Bellevue School District. He's the Chief of Staff and Government Relations, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the school district and the buildings that we have in our neighborhood. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always great to be here in the Newport Hills neighborhood. Prior to being chief of staff, I was chief of schools, and I supervised most of the secondary schools. So I spent a lot of time at Ringgold, as it was our swing site. When I first came to the district, Taiyi was there, then Chinook, then Odell, then Tillicum, then Highland. So I spent a lot of time over here at Ringgold. And of course, I supervised Taiyi at its current site and Newport High School. I've never worked directly with Newport Heights Elementary, so it's one of the few schools that I haven't worked with a lot directly. But Ann asked me if I could speak to you a little bit about our enrollment in the three schools that serve this neighborhood. Again, that would be Newport Heights, Taiyi Middle School, and Newport High School. And also talk a little bit about the vacant properties, and you have two of them in this neighborhood, with the old Newport Heights Elementary, which for a long time was the site of Jingmei, before Jingmei moved over to Wilburton, across from the Botanical Gardens. And then, of course, the other vacant site currently is Ringgold. So those are the two things that I'm prepared to talk about. I'm happy to talk about other things as well, if time permits. Well, let's start with the enrollment. And I'm going to have to face this way. I can't see that back screen, so I'll have to take a look. Who's advancing the slides? Would you mind going to, I was going to talk about enrollment at your three schools first, but I think I'll start with kind of the district enrollment, and then I'll work backwards. So if you could just advance the slides, I'll tell you when to stop. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Right there's a good one. So this slide shows you our enrollment over the years. So beginning with 2021, we had around 19,350 students. And you'll see a pretty significant dip there in 21-22, I should say, and 22-23 starts to come up a little bit in 23-24, and we're currently right back where we were pre-pandemic with 19,477 students. At the height in the spring prior to the pandemic was the last time our enrollment was at this level. There is a bit of a difference though, and that is a lot of the difference and the students that the difference between the students that we lost during the pandemic and the students that we've gained since the pandemic. Many of them are what we call non-resident students. And that's an important term for this neighborhood. It simply means they're students who we accept into the district that are enrolled in other school districts. You guys are right next door to the Renton School District. So our schools in the south end here are popular locations for non-resident students from the Renton School District, and I can give you a little more detail about your schools in a minute here. So that's our general enrollment. Districts across the country, I think you've all heard this, we lost students during the pandemic. We've gained them back. One of the myths out there is that a lot of the students that we lost during the pandemic went to private schools or homeschooled, and there is validity to that. We did lose students to private schools, and we did lose students to homeschooling during the pandemic and shortly after. The vast majority of the students that we lost, however, in that period were students that moved out of state. And we're starting to see the number of students that left for homeschooling and for private schools in the pandemic. The number has gone back to pre-pandemic levels, so we're happy about that. And the other interesting kind of anomaly in Bellevue enrollment generally is schools again across the country, and especially here in King County, we're seeing districts losing students. Everybody's enrollment is down, primarily because the birth rate is down. Birth rates are at historic lows. I think another factor is the cost of living in our region is significant. Housing is expensive, so that's another factor. And we've been quite concerned because our high school cohort is about 1,500, 1,600 kids who graduate each year. But our incoming kindergarten numbers, I said 60,000, I meant 1,600. 1,600 kids who graduate in any given year, but our kindergarten cohort coming in was only around 1,100. So if you do the math, that's a difference of 500 kids. So as that kindergarten class makes its way through the progression, they'll still be, if they don't change, 1,100 kids when they graduate, where currently we're graduating about 1,600 kids in a cohort. That's a whole school. So what we've seen, next slide, please. This shows, as you go to the next slide, this slide here shows the growth in our non-resident students. So our enrollment, like I said, today, it's basically where it was pre-pandemic in the spring, in the 2019-2020 school year. But a lot of the students that difference has been as a result of our increased enrollment for non-resident students. So you see in that pandemic year, 2020-21, 637 non-resident students, where today in 25-26, we're almost 1,700. So it's a pretty significant increase of non-resident students. That makes sense. Any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
Do non-resident students have a fee to pay? Or is there any way, because our property taxes goes towards the school?
Yeah,
Where's their go?
that's a really good question. So, no, there's no fee. So basically in the state of Washington, the law basically reads, you can go to any school district you want as long as that district or that school you want has capacity, and as long as the school district has declared the school you want or schools you want to be open schools. So pre-pandemic, we were pretty full. There were not a lot of schools that had room, so we basically didn't take a lot of non-resident students. Then with the pandemic, when our enrollment dropped about 1,600 kids, we started to see capacity in our buildings, so we started taking non-resident students. So the state funding is primarily, funding comes with students. It's a student enrollment funded system. So whatever that student, whatever our students, one FTE, one student generates, we would get that state funding. Where it gets a little interesting is with our local levies that we just had one that the voters supported. Thank you to everybody who voted, regardless of how you voted, thank you for voting. Those levy dollars are levied against homeowners. Clearly, non-resident students are not homeowners in Bellevue because they don't live in Bellevue. So there's a slight cost there, and I'm not quite sure what the number is, but it's minimal, and in sort of general terms, the return that we get in state funding far surpasses the loss of levy funding for those students. So it's a net positive gain for the school district. Quite frankly, we've been using non-resident students to kind of stabilize our enrollment and our funding picture. So, but what we will not do is we do not, accept students if we don't have capacity in our buildings to do that. And we're not going to hire extra teachers, to serve non-resident students. It's with existing staffing and existing capacity. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Anything else before I move on? Yes.
So for you used to have checked your address to go to Newport High. So there's a lot of people foreign students, especially foreign students come here to go to the public school for free.
Yeah.
I thought we have to check these things.
Don, would you please summarize the question?
Yeah, the question was,
The microphone won't pick
when
it up
students
back
register, and I think you mentioned students that maybe foreign students who just moved here, just arrived in the country or new to the area. When students enroll, we do an address verification process. So yes, addresses are verified. And once your address is verified, you have a right to attend that neighborhood school. We have an open enrollment school district, so if you are a Newport Heights Elementary area student, you could open enroll to another district school if there was room in that school for you. And some of our schools are quite popular destinations, and we get more students an open enrollment, let's say there's 7 spaces in the 2nd grade at Ennetai Elementary. All of the students from across the district in 2nd grade who have applied for open enrollment to Ennetai get put into a pool. Let's say there's 20 people that apply to be in 2nd grade at Ennetai but don't live in the Ennetai neighborhood. But there's only 7 spaces, so we do it by a lottery basis. So 7 of those 20 students would get into Ennetai. But the short answer to your question is yes, we do verify addresses to assure that that students live here. And again, if you don't live here, you can apply for non-resident status, but there's no guarantee that you'll be given, that we'll be able to accommodate you in any given year. We've only got, I think we've probably stabilized at about 1,700 is about, unless our enrollment drops significantly, which it's not likely to. We're kind of at the number, the maximum number that we feel that we can handle.
Sorry, the question, the second part of the question is, foreign student meaning they're not legal residents in the U.S.
Yeah, foreign students, there's various student visas. We do not enroll students. We do not enroll students on student visas unless they're a foreign exchange student registered with one of the agencies that place students. Like Kiwanis is a huge one. But we don't accept foreign students. They have to have status in the U.S. to be enrolled in our schools.
Using the example that you just had said about people that want to go to Ennetai, 2nd graders opening for 7 students or whatever, once those 7 students, they go there, then basically they're locked in to go to those 3 schools in that Ennetai area for junior high. And, I mean, they're basically considered.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not going to be flipping around back and forth between elementary and.
Yeah, did everyone hear the question? So if you are accepted into a school that's not your attendance area school, if you're a Bellevue School District resident, or if you're a non-resident student and you've been accepted into a Bellevue School District school, you are what we call grandfathered. So if it's Newport Heights, for example, you would be able to access the feeder pattern schools of Tyee Middle School than Newport High School. Yes?
Sorry, I'm sorry. My back is killing me.
Because I heard there's some open transfer from other schools like Newcastle, so our school become overcrowded, and the staff has been reduced, so it's more pressure for the staff.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the question was, if and we've been experiencing some funding challenges, and we did decrease our staffing. We made some cuts, and so the question is, if we accept non-resident students, is that putting additional pressure? And again, we will only accept students if there's capacity in that grade level at any particular school. So for example, we'll have schools that might have space in 1st grade, but don't have space in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. So it really depends on the schools that folks apply for and whether there's capacity to take them. But the total number of 1,700, approximate number of non-resident students currently in the Bellevue School District, I don't see that number growing too significantly, because I think we're pretty much at maximum capacity right now. Yes.
So I've
Nice
heard
to see you, Deborah. It's been a long time.
I've heard some neighborhood rumors that a large percentage of Newport Heights attendance is from non-residents, and
Yeah,
I just want to see the
Yeah,
accuracy of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there. That's so.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else on the district enrollment? I'm gonna go now to like your 3 schools. Yes.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
What's the throughput? So do we have a lot of kids that do homeschooling for elementary and junior high, or elementary and middle school, and then go enter into high school, or?
We do. I don't know what those numbers are. Sometimes with homeschooling, it's challenging in that if a student starts homeschooling, we don't know that necessarily unless they want to access. So if you're a homeschool student, you can access what are called ancillary services. at your resident school. So unless they, a high school kid wants to take band, we wouldn't know necessarily that that student is one of ours until they, request access to ancillary services. And what we do know is that the students that are with us and at some point choose to do homeschooling, we know about those students because of course they withdraw from us.
But you don't track the number of kids that are coming into high school from homeschooling?
We do, I just can't tell you what that number is. I have to
Yeah, I
do
didn't-
that. And let me go back to that on the foreign student piece. I want to make sure that I didn't misspeak. When we register, we don't ask immigration status, right? We're not allowed to by law. If a family has a residence and they can verify their residence, then we enroll them. We have to enroll them. But with foreign, what we do not do though is there are districts that accept students on student visas, like J1 visas. We don't do that. The only foreign students that we accept are foreign exchange students registered with an exchange student agency like WAS. Yes?
Oh, well, I have a question. You're talking about the foreign students, but what do you do about, because we've had at least one home here in Newport Hills that's acted as, for lack of a better word, a boarding house for students coming from outside the country, coming without parents to live here, to go to our schools here. So they come with no adults. And as a matter of fact, I run the scanner group here in South Bellevue, and we did have a very concerning call where Newport High School's principal staff were calling and to get a welfare check on a high school student who hadn't shown up in months, lived up here in Newport Hills, and was from out of the country staying with people that.
Yeah.
So how do you verify that? Because that's very concerning to me.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it sounds like the school is aware they had a welfare check. But we've heard those stories, and for many years, Newport High School is a very popular location. I mean, that is a high demand and tight. I mean, all three of your schools are, quite frankly, but Newport has been dealing with this issue about, whether they're actually accurate addresses. And we've heard the kind of stories that you just mentioned, Heidi. And I'm originally from Vancouver, BC, and it's really interesting. I was a high school principal in Surrey in the early 90s, and we saw a huge population increase, from mainland China, and just prior to the Hong Kong, the Chinese takeover of Hong Kong, we saw huge increases of students, and those kind of stories were the kind of stories that we heard. They're challenging to track down, but it's and who's the adult that's responsible for the child is kind of not our responsibility, but it's important. So if there's safety kind of issues, we, to the degree that we can, will work with our safety and security department and department BPD if we need to. But we have heard stories like that, and again, we still hear that there are students who may have enrolled and may not be living at the addresses that they provide, and that's been a check. We're a really good school system, and we're in demand, and I would not be shocked if there wasn't the odd family or two that may not live where they say they live. That's kind of the reality. So let's talk about your schools. Where's my slide person? There we go. Go to the beginning of the deck if you could. Go to the very beginning. I'm not quite sure where I started. Okay, that's just my role. I do a bunch of things.
It was the next one.
You probably don't care that much. But
You have it pulled up.
what you do. Okay, here's what you do care about. So here is the enrollment of your three schools for last year and this year. So you see Newport Heights, last school year, 473 plus 22. Anybody want to know what the plus 22 is? Anybody have an idea?
Kindergartners?
Preschool.
Wow.
So almost, I think all of our elementary schools are 2 or 3, and I think next year all of them will have a preschool component, which is a really good thing. So it's those 22 are preschool students. So this year, enrollment at Newport Elementary is 533 plus 55. So that preschool population doubled. If you look at Tyee, pretty stable. Last year, October 1st enrollment was 1,009. This year, 1,062. So it's up. And then Newport's a big school. It's always been a big school. It's always hovered around 1,600, 1,650 as long as I've been in the district, and we're well above that right now. 1,798, 1,800 almost last year, and not much different, 1,749 this year. So that's the enrollment. What I will say generally is your 3 schools are maxed. There's no more room in these 3 schools. So next slide. So this is the projected enrollment for next year. So Newport Heights Elementary, 524 plus 62. So that preschool population, the general population is increasing, not by much, but increasing, and the same thing with the preschool population. Tyee, pretty stable, projected at 1057. Newport High School at 1618, and you see the note up there does not include non-resident students. So if you look at these 3 schools, Newport Heights, bigger than it was last year, projected enrollment. Tyee, flat, projected enrollment. Newport High School, that's down a couple hundred. What that means is there is some room, in all likelihood, at Newport High School to add some non-resident students. Does that make sense? Plus, it's a pretty new building, and you all live in the neighborhood. We just completed, as of this past fall, a pretty significant addition, which really nicely got rid of the portables are gone, which is awesome. But it's a big school. It's a big physical school. It's a beautiful facility. Next slide. Okay, this shows your non-resident students. So Newport Heights, 113 last year, 148 this year. So that's pretty big. And question may be, what is driving that increase at Newport Heights Elementary? And I would say kind of 2 things. We started a Korean language program there last year. It's a draw, plus your proximity to the Benton School District. I would imagine those are the 2 kind of factors in non-resident growth at Newport Heights Elementary. And Tyee Middle School, 121, 24, 25, 186 currently. And that school has more non-resident students, I believe, than any other school in the district. And then finally, Newport High School, pretty stable, 85 and 99. So it's a significant number of non-resident students. I'm going to stop there again. Questions about enrollment at your 3 schools? Yes?
What's the funding source for the preschool?
Yeah, great question. Preschool, I think everybody knows this, we're a K-12 system. Our mandate's K-12. Preschool by policy and kind of state law is that it has to run on a cost-neutral basis. So it's funded by tuition and grants. So parents pay tuition, and we do get some grants. Our wonderful Bellevue Schools Foundation, for example, funds, I think, 30 students who wouldn't be able to afford preschool otherwise, which is awesome. So it's self-funded for the most part with a little bit of grant funding. I would love if our state was, kind of more supportive in terms of funding for preschool, because kids, the research is unequivocally solid that kids who have a high-quality preschool experience, their trajectory and their success in elementary school, middle school, high school, and beyond is phenomenal. So That's preschool. Anything else?
Hey, John,
Yeah.
so if the preschool goes from 25 to 55 to 100, which is enough capacity, then they need to have 2 more teachers there, whatever. And so that's driving
Yeah,
stuff, and they gotta have rooms.
right, so,
and all that, so-
right, and I think, again, you know, Newport Heights Elementary is pretty much at capacity. And then the funny thing, again, with preschool, it's self-funded, so those teachers that they would need would be driven by preschool enrollment.
John, but then are those students guaranteed the ability to move into first grade from preschool? Or into kindergarten from preschool, once they're in the building?
If they're, no. So that grandfathering applies elementary to middle to high. It does not apply preschool to K. So, and that's a really good point, because we do have, I don't know exactly what the number is, but we would have a significant number of our preschool students would be non-resident students. I don't know how significant, because our preschool program is fantastic, and you know, our community supports it. Our staff really take advantage of it. A lot of our staff have their kids in our preschool programs.
Do you expect the class size to increase as the staff is reduced and more capacity?
Yeah, so you've heard a lot about class size. With our budget challenges, for many years, we have staffing allocations, right? It's a formula, and don't quote me on the formula, but let's say it's 22 to 1 for elementary, 23.5 to 1 for middle, and 24.5 to 1 for high school. That funding, that staffing allocation has remained the same. We've not changed it. But for many years, we had the financial capacity, if we had a second grade class at Woodridge, you know, 2 second grade classes at Woodridge Elementary, both at 27 kids. What we were able to do when times when money wasn't so tight, is we would add a teacher. So for many years, we have overstaffed, right? So this year, we staffed to that number. So when it was all said and done, at the elementary level, the overall average class size is not significantly different than what it was last year. The average middle school class size is significantly higher than it was last year, and so is the high school average class size. And the average class size thing is kind of hard to wrap your head around, because it doesn't help you if you're a parent of a 4th grader at Newport Heights Elementary and you happen to have your kid in a class of 31 or 32 kids. Because to get to the average, which hasn't changed, that means that there's another class somewhere in the system, same grade level, in another school with maybe 18, 19, 21 kids. So it's a class size average across the district. What I do know, because we were just at a school board visit at Newport Heights, they have some large class sizes at Newport Heights Elementary this year. Bigger class sizes than they've had in previous years.
Yeah, for example, at Heidi, I think it's around 35 to 40. So
Yeah, there's the odd, that's not the average, nowhere near the average. The average is about 24, something in that zone, but there are some anomalies. And to your point, you said, is it going to change? I would predict that it won't be any worse than it is this year. So next year should be pretty similar. What I'm hoping is that successive years after next year, we'll be able to start to reinvest in lower class sizes again. But we will not be in the position to do that this coming year. So it'll probably be pretty similar to this year.
Parent support, extra aid, extra support for those classrooms, especially in preschool. Those numbers are
Yeah, and I agree with you, which is why, you know, our elementary class size across the district didn't change that much. We should be prioritizing our youngest learners. There is no question. Trust me, as a longtime high school teacher, I'll take 35, you know, 9th grade boys in a PE class. 15 kindergarten kids are much more challenging. I mean, so yeah, that's yeah. Yeah. Any other questions on your schools? Yes.
So I think there's a few pieces. One is the reason that you mentioned the cost is getting harder, getting out local. And how to impact the, like, for example, you have in the elementary school, you go home school, and then you just one of the students, they not have the space, and even worse, we see a lot more,
Thank you.
kind of like boarding, use our space as a boarding school, like the Vancouver, because they all come here, and they actually have a lot of the agency that the ties come to here, so it's kind of like a free boarding school, and that's really worrying.
Yeah, I think I got your question. I mean, there is a concern with our practice, and we've codified it in our policy that once we take a non-resident student, that student has guaranteed enrollment in their feeder pattern. If there was, like, you know, a new housing development or something like that really spiked enrollment at probably an elementary school, that probably likely wouldn't happen at a middle or a high school. We do have the capacity, like, to revoke that non-resident student if we needed to. It's not likely that would be the case unless something bizarre happens. One of the things I was going to mention too, I said another anomaly, we're talking about birth rate. For many, many years, our kindergarten cohort has been, you know, small, at around 1,100. This year we saw a spike in kindergarten enrollment of about 200 kids, which is a really, really, really good sign. I mean, that's half of the deficit. So that and every other school district in King County enrollment decreased. We were like the outlier where we had a pretty significant increase. Yes.
Hi, I'm just wondering if we could go ahead and hold questions until after your presentation, so we can get to.
Last thing I want to present, so we can come back if we have time. The last thing I want to present is the status of the vacant buildings in your neighborhood. So the next slide to show that. So there are the two properties. The old Newport Heights, which for a long time served, was the site for Jane May Elementary, the Mandarin Dual Language Program. Right now, it is occasionally used by the Bellevue Police Department and Bellevue Fire Department for training exercises. And there is some potential for short-term enrollment for next year. We've been contacted by a couple of local private schools looking for a temporary space while they build campuses. So nothing is official, and that may or may not happen, but it is a possibility. So I figured I'd better let you know that, because if it happens, and I didn't mention this, Harrison was here and he never told us about that. So that it is potential. Nothing has been signed, no agreements made, but there is some potential for that. With Ringdahl, our safety and security team do district training exercises there, simulations, crisis response, that kind of stuff. And that happens on a fairly regular basis. We need Ringdahl one more time, probably the last time. We'll need Ringdahl as a swing site. Fall of 2027, International School will begin construction of a new international school on the international school current site. So International will be using Ringdahl as a swing site. Fall of 27, completion in June of 29. No plans beyond that. So that's what's happening with the two schools in your neighborhood.
Thank you for letting us know. Thank you for letting us know about the potential for that, because I'm already having difficulty getting out of the neighborhood in the morning. with the increase of people that are dropping off their kids and stuff like that. I've never seen it like that before. Normally it's going down the hill, but going out the back way now, I can't get out.
Yeah, I noticed that. One morning, we were talking about, maybe putting one of our programs at Ringdale, and it'd been a while, so I decided to drive over and take a look, and it was like earlier in the fall. I noticed what seemed to be increased traffic on, what's the street that goes?
Southeast 60th.
Yeah, and there seemed to be increased traffic, and cars seem to be going faster than they used to too. So that's kind of interesting. I have heard that there have been some concerns about traffic. More cars, people not parking appropriately, not respecting the neighborhood, driving fast, all that kind of stuff. And what I'm going to do, I'd love to hear if that's been your experience. Obviously, Heidi's had that experience, I'm sure others have. I'd like to share that what I can do is two things. I can talk with Chris Hagan, the principal, to remind his parent community that this is a neighborhood. And sometimes it's people that live in the neighborhood too, so it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always the non-resident families that may be driving fast or not parking appropriately. But my point is that he has access to the parents, and it's always good to remind parents that this is a neighborhood, there are people that live here, it's an elementary school, follow the signs, follow the rules of the road, park appropriately, be aware and be respectful. I mean, it's a neighborhood, be respectful of the neighborhood. So that's one thing I can do. And the other thing I've already done, I gave Doug James, our Director of Safety Security, a call, and I said, have you heard anything from the Newport Hills community? I said, I'm going to be speaking there tonight. I think I might hear about traffic. So have you heard anything from the community? And he says a little bit, but I think everybody knows this. Off of school campus, the laws of the road and how people drive and park and everything else, that's the responsibility of the Bellevue Police Department. And I would really encourage you, because I kind of know how this works, and we've seen this in other neighborhoods, let the BPD know what you're experiencing. Because the more people that bring it to their attention, their likelihood of responding with, that they've done this in other communities, or they'll do like a blitz for a week and monitor, people's driving habits and ticket people, which is a great deterrent. So feel free to let the BPD know, and also if you want to email me, I can certainly send that along to Doug James as well. But Doug said that he would contact the BPD to let them know, assuming that I'm going to hear that from you tonight, to let them know that traffic congestion, parking, speeding are all concerns of this community. Sorry, Debbie, before we get to you, one of the things kind of interesting though, is I will say this, that with the non-resident students in this immediate neighborhood, what was that number, 140 or something, I can't remember what it was, of non-resident kids at Newport Heights Elementary. Not that long ago, you had Jing May. There were 400 kids plus at the old Newport Heights, all city draw. So there are vast majority people from other parts of the city bringing their kids to your community. So the number of kids that don't live in your neighborhood is actually less than what it was when you had Jing May on the old Newport Heights Elementary site. Yeah, and Ringdale, I'm sure when there's something happening in Ringdale, I'm sure you all noticed it. I'm sure you noticed it when Isaak, Cooter Middle School rented the space there for a couple of years, but yeah. So just be aware that a year from September, Ringdale will be occupied again. International has about 600 students, so it's more like it was. Highland was probably around 600 as well, but they were in the space. So it'll be, I would imagine, pretty similar to that.
Michelle, did you have a question?
Debbie,
she first, I thought Michelle. All right, go ahead.
And this is just a quick one, so right now, the sign has been taken off from the old Newport Heights, and there's just like bare bulbs, and it looks like a vacant
families are a problem. They open themselves to vandalism, quite frankly. Can you do me a favor? Can you email me? And that way I won't forget. Yes, ma'am.
So just around the additional traffic, if you're talking to the principal, encouraging the families to put their children on the bus versus driving them is huge, because every time we seem to have an elementary, the car intake tips up because those families want to drive their kids across town, not put them on the bus. So that would be very helpful to encourage the bus. And
That's very interesting thing. Post-pandemic, our bus ridership went down. It's starting to come back, which is good. And price of gas may help with that too. It's getting expensive, but it's amazing to me. It's just a different, generation. I won't go into, I have to walk to school uphill both ways and so all those kind of stories. But yeah, we're seeing there are more parents driving these days, but it appears, our bus ridership is up. So, hopefully we're turning that down. But I would agree, though, obviously the fewer cars on the road, the better. Any other questions? Am I running out of time?
I think
you
we're
want
not.
to cook it?
Unless that's about right, because we have a guest speaker and a little bit more information.
So, Debbie emailed me. I know she has my email address, but if there are questions that didn't get answered, and they don't have to be on the topic either, you have a Bellevue School District question, I'm happy to get you an answer. If I can, just email me, harrisonjbsd405.org, and I will endeavor to help you out. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of really good information. You answered a lot of questions that several of us had, so we really appreciate that. Our next speaker is David Isaak from the City of Bellevue. He's our new neighborhood liaison, and we appreciate that. I guess I should say outreach manager, and we appreciate getting to know you, and we'll enjoy hearing what you have to say.
Well, good evening. Thank you for welcoming me here. I am not originally from Bellevue, so it's wonderful to get to know this community. I moved here about 3 months ago, so I'm doing my homework. So I would love to hear your questions, but also would like to learn from you as a community about what's going on here and how I can help. So tonight I'm going to help describe what my team does at the City of Bellevue, what a community liaison is, or neighborhood liaison is, some of the programs that we develop as a neighborhood outreach team to help sort of bridge divides, build connection within communities, but also build a relationship that's productive with the city, which is really important to us. We can go forward. So this is what we do, what I've just said. One really important element of what we do is we support neighborhood associations and organizing. Obviously, you all are healthy. You're an organization that has a lot of members, and you're out here today. We do offer support to help refresh an organization. If you're seeing a dip in membership, we can help send mailers to other community members, help with promotion, etc. Or if you want to start your own association, which isn't necessarily tonight. But also we are happy to help provide a free space each year at a parks facility. If it's something that you would like to utilize, but you have to book in advance, but I encourage folks to do that. These are the members of the team. There's 5 of us. As you can see, we all serve as neighborhood liaisons for a couple of neighborhood areas, but we also have programs that we run. So you can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, part of the role of a neighborhood association or a neighborhood liaison is to support neighborhood organizing through associations. We want to share resources with all of you. So I am here. You can reach out to me. My card is out on the table. If you need resources from the city, if you're facing challenges with maybe a broken water main, or you have an electricity issue and PSC is not getting back to you, but that never happens, or if there's another issue that you're having with the city and it's just for some reason or another is not being responsive, copy me in. Also, when you're communicating with council or If you have other issues with the city, I'm happy to help advise or keep me in the loop. One thing that we're trying to do more of, which we may not have done that well in the past, is really get out to neighborhoods to meet folks where you're at. Come to association meetings to share more of what we're doing. We're happy to have coffee to talk about any issues in the neighborhood or how we can support you. And when we do that, I think, I sit in the community development department, I sit next to the planners, I sit next to the economic development folks. We learn better about the dynamics that are going on the ground, and I can better represent issues within the city. So here are the names of the neighborhood association, neighborhood area liaisons. You just take note, anyone that's serving import. You go to the next slide. I want to go through some programs that we have that are currently, some of them are open for application if you want to join and either get more involved in the city or maybe meet some new folks in Bellevue. And then some are ongoing. The first is called Keep Bellevue Beautiful, which you may or may not have seen. It's relatively new. It's actually a pilot program that council decided to continue this year. But we're doing 26 city-sponsored cleanups across the city. So going to every neighborhood area across the city at least once this year. So we'll come to Newport soon. We also have an Adopt a Street program where we've got about 40 adopters covering over 30 miles of area in the city. So if that's of interest to anybody, you can reach out. And then also there are corporate cleanups that you may have participated in, corporate Visa or Amazon. Go to the next slide. Jubilee in the Community is a partnership that we have with Jubilee Reach. And so every summer we work with Jubilee Reach and volunteers to help clean up homes for folks who may not have the ability to do that. So that if that's something that you're interested in being a part of, or if you need a little help in your own home, feel free to apply to that program. We'll be looking next month.
Is that the same program that builds ramps for people if they need it, or is that something different?
I'm not sure if they're building ramps. I haven't heard of ramp building, but it's usually paint or yard cleanup, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then Bellevue Essentials is a program that's been running for 13 years. There's a cohort every year, and you get to learn about how the city functions. It's really interactive. It's about 10 weeks. It runs in the fall. The application period is open next month. Our mayor and 3 other council members are graduates of Bellevue Essentials. The Neighborhood Enhancement Program also has been going on for about 30 years. So you may have been involved with this program in the past. But it's an opportunity for every single resident in the neighborhood area to propose an idea for an enhancement project, and then you work with the city to sort of come up with that project detail, and then the community gets to vote on that enhancement project. So many projects have been completed throughout the city. There's lots of sidewalks, some bat houses. There's work done on beautification of streetscapes. So that'll be coming though in 2029. So it's a few years until we do 2 neighborhood areas a year. Cultural Conversations also has been ongoing for many years. We're launching a new Cultural Conversations facilitator course this summer, so the application period is also open now if you're interested in taking a few classes on sort of learning to facilitate conversations across difference and learning about language access, etc. And then helping set the program for the 2026-2027 year. Feel free to apply to be a part of that. We'll go to the next. So block parties are something that are really popular. Associations or just a few residents, maybe in a cul-de-sac, if you want to have a block party, please do. You can reach out to me as your liaison. I'm happy to help walk you through that process. You can have a promotion and rewards for doing that. And there's no fee for that. There will be large barricades that will be used this year, but when you get the permit, if you need to block off the street, we're happy to help walk you through that. It's for safety reasons. And then finally, we have neighborhood walks that we do every summer with city leadership that helps residents have informal conversations with our staff. So those are some of the programs that we use to help build dialogue, build connection between the city and residents, and then also help build connection within neighborhoods. But really, I'm also open to suggestions, and I'm open to get to know all of you. This is a long-term relationship building sort of role to support this community. I'm happy to take questions. I apologize that I'm not a subject matter expert on many things that you may be concerned about. I know that HOMA often comes up, and housing, I know traffic comes up. We certainly hear you, and I'm happy to take those notes down and or have a deeper conversation with you about it to better understand those dynamics. But that's what I do in a nutshell in my team. So thank you for letting me share about us.
You said you're not from Bellevue. Where are you from?
I'm from Oklahoma. Yeah. But I lived all over the world for the last 15 years as a diplomat.
So you picked the best place to land.
Well, when I was overseas, I always said I wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest, so it's a gift that I get to be here. Yeah.
Bingo.
Oh, yeah, I think one way, if you're saying that part of your role is to work as liaison between the neighborhood and the council and...
Not the council, just the neighborhood in the city.
And the city.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I think there's breakdowns. I think there's a lot of people that don't feel heard in the neighborhood. And so when these loud voices keep coming, then it's like, okay, it's just them again yelling, and it's kind of like the communication shuts down. And so I think ways of communicating more effectively, like between, so that the neighborhood is heard, that we all can kind of give input into like the shopping center and traffic and stuff like that. I think that would be helpful, to kind of, not cool the temperature, but like find better ways of expressing and listening between different decision makers. I just feel like it's really kind of evolved a lot, and then.
Yeah, we talked about this at a recent meeting about the importance of having more standard engagement practices, coming a lot earlier to communities and listening, and more systematic and significant engagement. There's a new team in the city that's stood up, that sits right next to me, that's working on this day in and day out to try to develop better toolkits and standards for doing that kind of means of engagement. So we hear you, we're moving on it. But I wouldn't say that it's been done perfectly. And I'm certainly here also to help with that. So if there is an issue that you see related to an engagement process that isn't thorough enough, if there's a meeting with utilities, I will hopefully be there to show up. I will maybe met with you all beforehand and on points, and I can help bring up those points of the city. So I'm happy to help with that. What else? Yeah.
During the last neighborhood enrichment cycle.
The NEP cycle, that enhancement?
Yeah. I think we voted to put a flashing lights crosswalk at the corner over here by the park.
Okay.
And it hasn't ever been done.
Well, I will follow up on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you would do that, I appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah.
No, there.
That's a good point, because as our previous speaker was saying, he has witnessed the high speeders going down 60th and how that's such a dangerous street. And so you're correct that, and we did vote on that too, and that would be really nice. And I don't know if because Ringgold is populated, it's become a lower priority, but the neighborhood walks that street all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, the neighborhood enhancement program projects typically are completed. There are very few that aren't, and so I'll follow up on it to see maybe it's just caught in the planning cycle and needs to get pushed along. If it was planned a couple of years ago, that's typical. It doesn't start for 2 years. But traffic safety is usually a priority, right?
If you're talking about the dog park, there is a flashing crosswalk there on 60th.
At the park. Here.
Oh, the Woodrun Park.
Right here by the.
Right at the curve.
Right
Okay.
at the curve, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted one here between the Chevron and the church, because I saw so many kids almost get nailed when they used to go to the Lee's martial arts and stuff, and I still see a lot of people, playing Frogger coming across trying to get over to S-Mart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the city has those concerns and you don't feel like your voice is heard, I'm happy to take those and organize also a conversation with the transportation safety folks.
privately before the meeting about the meeting tomorrow night, the city's having about zoning. But could you explain that again?
The council meeting?
For the, council meeting for zoning for multifamily. Yeah, that. Some of you folks would like to hear about.
I cannot go, I am not that well informed about. the
I'll be
details of
covering
that.
that.
But, I'm sorry?
I'll be covering that
Maybe
after you're done,
okay,
yeah.
Good, good. But I can bring someone out here if the community would like to have another person talk. But
It'll be too late.
it'll be too late.
Yeah.
They should have been
I will
sending
say,
people.
you know, I appreciate if people want to reach out to council through email, calls, and or if there's going to be verbal discussion tomorrow. Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I will not be here, so I want to know what happened, then in which way I could ask some information.
From council?
Yeah, from tomorrow's meeting. I want to know about the meeting, but unfortunately, I cannot be here tomorrow.
It's not here.
Yes.
Nothing to do with here. But the
Tomorrow.
meeting is
City council meeting.
Is this Bellevue City now? Has nothing to do with here.
Okay.
City Hall.
City Hall. I'm
Yeah.
City Hall.
They're all on BTV, so they're all tape recorded.
Uh-huh.
I watch them on the bus when I ride them to work. But there's also a council summary that comes out too about the summary of the votes and
So
the
when
results
I
of
check
that.
the video,
The video is up immediately after. Yeah.
so that I could watch it
Yep.
on my side. Okay.
It's just, you know, they're long, but you have to fast forward to the moment, which can be a little bit harder on the phone than on the laptop. Okay.
Is there a voting process, whether the residents agree on amount?
So, council will vote. The residents have a chance to express opinions and input in a process that I know has been ongoing for some time.
Even for people like me trying to get information, trying to be in conversation.
I'm happy to explain all this for people.
Yeah.
It's very hard for the residents to even know what's going on, and then the people who make decisions.
Yeah, I hear you.
David, do we have your email address?
You do have my email
Okay,
address.
great. And
You
can
have my
send
card on the
business cards.
table.
Okay, great. And if it's possible for you to stay for the home competition, that would be great too.
Tonight?
Yeah,
I would love to.
yeah.
I would love to.
So Heidi's gonna give us a little update on it.
Great.
And then we'll have some other questions. But,
Great. Great to meet you all.
Yeah.
Pastor, can you go to the, okay, thank you. So hi, my name is Heidi Dean. I am the Area 8 trustee for Oak Community Club. I'm a full-time past president. Secretary position on the board between 2018 and now. I'm also the advocacy committee chair and have been heavily involved with HOMA, which is housing opportunities in mixed-use areas. And what that is that started in the fall of 2022. This is a council-initiated land use code amendment, meaning that it's not mandated by any of those state bills, housing bills that passed. This is the council's decision to go forward with this. So I want to make that really clear to everybody, because they can say no. They could say no. Will they say no? This started as part of a program that's called the Next Right Work. And the idea was in the fall of 2022, this is before all those housing bills passed, they were saying, well, we need a way to create more affordable housing. So we're going to look at mixed use areas, such as, for example, our shopping center is zoned neighborhood business. That means that the primary focus of it is retail on the ground floor, but it can have up to about 2 floors of housing or residential above it. But as it's currently zoned, the residential portion has to go on the second floor above. So they first focused with the next right work on the downtown portion, and they worked on that between late 2022 and about October of 2024 when they adopted the comp plan. Then in December of 2024, they came back and did an update to the council and said, okay, we're ready to go with phase 2 of this next right work, and we're going to call it HOMA. At this point, they kind of fiddled around with names. And so what's been interesting about this is anybody who's followed the comp plan update, raise your hand if you followed the comp plan update. There were a lot of us that did that. And we actually have a former planning commission chair in our midst here that was the chair during the last update in 2015. What was interesting was in 2023, when they were doing the draft environmental impact statement, they released that on, and they took comments between, I think it was like April and June 12th of 2023. We saw 2 of the neighborhood center owners, Rainier Northwest, who owns our shopping center, and the people that were buying the Northtown Shopping Center over on Bellevue Way by 520. They put in a request, it's in writing. They wanted their centers to be upzoned on the future land use map to what was called mixed-use mid-rise, 7 to 10 stories. They have consistently denied that. It's in writing. So that was not granted because the 2023 board, I was sitting with Johnny Liu at that meeting when we caught that. Johnny Liu now serves on the Planning Commission as our vice chair of the Planning Commission. We caught that. We came back, we talked to the board, we wrote a letter opposing that. So then Johnny's wife read that into the record. At the next meeting, there were people who are present, who were at that meeting, waving hands, supporting that. So that didn't go through. And then what the Planning Commission did is they ended up deciding that they were going to keep properties that are zoned neighborhood business, which are 2 to 4 stories, and community business, which were generally 3 to 4 stories. They were going to keep most of the community business and neighborhood business together, keep them 2 to 4 stories. They were going to study 3 community business properties at a higher density. Lakemont Village, up on Lakemont Boulevard, Kelsey Creek Center, and then Lake Hills Village, which has already been redeveloped. So those 3 were going to be studied at higher density. And then that went to the council in June of 2023, and that was approved. So in the final environmental impact statement, that's how those properties were studied at those levels. So come February of 2024, it was actually Valentine's Day, the staff kind of goes, hey, surprise, we've got a proposal for you, Planning Commission. We would like to propose a different way to change zoning on properties. We would like to make it easier for developers to change their zoning. So we'd like to just be able to give them a rezone. So again, the board had to write a letter, and basically, in a nutshell, what happened is both the Planning Commission recommended, they had a very robust, raise your hand if you were at that meeting, it was a very robust discussion where they decided to, again, keep neighborhood business and most of the community business in what's called the mixed-use low-rise 1 category, 2 to 4 stories. And they were going to separate out those other 3 community business properties into mixed-use low-rise 2. They hadn't called it that yet. They were calling it mixed-use low/mid-rise. But that went to the council, and they approved that. It's all in the records, in the meeting minutes. It's all in video. So that's how the future land use map was supposed to be. We thought, good, great, not to worry. So then HOMA starts. And immediately the staff was telling us, no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Your shopping center can go 3 to 5 stories. That's what you're zoning. That's what the staff is saying, even though we have video and meeting minutes. That's what they're telling everybody. So we do know that Rainier Northwest has been lobbying the Planning Commission, the City Council, and working with staff behind the scenes. They have hired a public relations consultant who has gathered residents to lobby for them. And that's who your Planning Commission and your City Council have been hearing from, not any of you. That's the unfortunate part. We did bring forward the fact that the engagement for this is a citywide land use code. It will affect neighborhood centers all across the city, but they have made it a referendum on Newport Hills. They have laser focused on us to pass this, and it will affect everybody. And there are neighborhood centers and people living around those neighborhood centers that have no idea that this is coming to their neighborhoods because they've received no outreach. And as a matter of fact, the Planning Commission in May, they were supposed to set a date for a public hearing, and they actually paused that and said, we're going to make you, staff, go out and spend the summer doing outreach because the outreach has been so awful that we want you to do it. And their idea of doing better outreach was to go to the Eastgate Community Association's picnic and do tabling, nowhere near any of these centers, and to go to the International Festival downtown and table, nowhere near any of these centers. And then they came back and said, we did a good job. Yeah, Donnie said that. So, oh, yes, and they've been busy getting the input of the high school students. So, come September, that's been the problem, is we've been working, this neighborhood has over and over and over again said, we don't want a massive upzone. We want something done with our shopping center. We want our property owners to take care of it. We would like for them to take care of the property. We would like for them to lease out those empty spaces because the dads that owned it, that make up Rainier Northwest, the first generation, they took care of it. But that's not happening. And we have asked the city to hold them accountable. And instead of holding them accountable, we're looking at them giving Rainier Northwest a massive upzone tomorrow night. Not just them, but also Northtown. And the Northtown folks and the Northtown businesses have no idea this is coming. None. Because our city council and our planning commission refused to hold the staff accountable. Refused. And it was a little bit different because in 2023 and 2024, we were seeing our planning commission asking questions and pushing back. And something has definitely changed. We did have a planning commissioner that resigned because she was intimidated by a private meeting with staff, and she left. And after that, a lot changed with the planning commission. So we did the best that we could. They had the planning commission had their public hearing December 10th. I was there, Ann B was there. And what was so interesting is they just had almost no interest in talking about the neighborhood centers. Everything was about downtown. How is it going to affect downtown? What are they going to do downtown? There was just almost nothing about the neighborhood centers, not about the effect on our traffic, not about the, you live in the townhomes and you get 5 stories next to you, nothing. And that reminds me too, they asked for what's called a land in lieu, or land transfer mechanism. So that means that they could transfer a portion of their property to the city in order to, for affordable housing, and then they would get out of putting affordable housing in the rest of their development on that property. So they could go up 5 stories in all market rate, and then have this other portion that is affordable housing, and the city would choose who they were going to put in there. I'm a little concerned, I'll be very honest with you, because given some of the things that I have seen and uncovered, it's looking like there might be some feeling going on with Imagine Housing. And as I said, I run the scanner page for South Bellevue. And in Bellevue, the only place that has more calls for service than Eastgate Housing Campus has the most calls in the city. Second to that are the Imagine Housing properties. The president of Imagine Housing lives in our neighborhood and has been at the Planning Commission. He was at the public hearing lobbying for an upzone to our shopping center. So it's just, I'm concerned because things aren't fair. Things aren't fair. We don't have anybody in our corner. We don't have anybody in our corner. So I think where people come together is we all want to see that shopping center functional. We all want to see it look nice. That is a common goal. Where I think a lot of us diverge is we don't want 5 stories of residential. We don't want to lose the ground floor retail. We don't want to see our businesses pushed out and have the focus changed. And Rainier Northwest keeps shopping a narrative of, we'll do farmers markets there and we'll have open space. But if you know anything about their vision, they always float a vision. Visions are not solid. That's not an actual plan that's been filed. And even those can change after zoning has been changed. Because they can build whatever's within the zoning. So tomorrow night, the Planning Commission voted to push through what the staff recommended on HOMA. February 24th, they wouldn't let Ann speak. Ann Bashir and I were there. They wouldn't let Ann speak during public comment. And then tomorrow night, the staff is bringing back an ordinance that will push this HOMA thing through. With, like I said, with nobody knows around the city, we're the only ones that they're hearing from. So my recommendation is if you have something you want to say about it, show up tomorrow night. It starts at 6 p.m. You can go online if you want to sign up to speak. They may let you speak, they may not let you speak. I don't know. It's kind of a funky thing. But I would recommend if you have something to say, there's the email, council@bellevuewa.gov. Go home and send an email about it. Did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to reiterate what Heidi's saying, which is that the council does not allow everyone to speak. You think that we lived in a democracy and that we could speak at these meetings. Well, you really can't. They let 3 people speak for an event and 3 people give testimony against it, but sometimes they count it a little bit differently. So we have gotten shut out and haven't been able to speak. And so it's really important to send an email so that everybody they all can just, it doesn't have to be long and complicated. Just say you oppose HOMA. You disagree with HOMA. It's not correct for our neighborhood. It's not taking into account all of the uniqueness of our neighborhood. In particular, that we are on a hill and we do only have 2 streets coming up to us, really, from the freeway. And so we already, we can't accommodate a 5-story huge apartment complex here, and it also is not going to be affordable. It'll be market rate, and that's the other part of this. That's kind of a big lie. They keep saying affordable, and it's really not going to be. We've done a lot of studies.
Unless they ran.
Yeah, that's true. Unless they get the low-income housing, and we do have low-income neighbors here in our neighborhood, and we love them, and they're great. Some of them are very involved in our community club who live here, so it's got nothing to do with your income level. It's just got everything to do with how the complex is being managed and how they are not listening, because we have been. Board members have been down there speaking, many of the other members here. We've been down there at those council meetings talking, and when they let us talk, going to the planning commission's hearings, and I'm sorry, but they really just don't care. They don't care. They're going to move forward. Some of the council members who used to be a little bit more reasonable, I don't get it. It's like they've drank some Kool-Aid or something, and they just are not listening to the neighbors, and they don't care. All they're doing is what is going to make it easy for developers, and that's not necessarily right for our neighborhood. So, anyway.
I wanted to point out too that 2 of our council members, including our current mayor, came from the planning commission during the time that a lot of these decisions were being made by the planning commission. So that would be Mayor Kutian and Councilmember Michelle Vergava. So they were both there during the time that they set the future land use map at 2 to 4 stories for our property. Councilmember Vergava was still there regarding the vote for the change of zoning, the mechanism for changing the zoning. And Councilmember Mo was already on the council when they voted and passed the comp plan. So I know everybody wants to do, the fields and no, we can't do this. They're actually ignoring their own comp plan. They're ignoring the things that they passed in the comprehensive plan for the future land use map. They're ignoring how to change the zoning mechanism. They're bypassing that with this HOMA thing. And they are ignoring elements of the comp plan. Transportation, utilities.
Involvement.
Yeah, no, that's community engagement is the number one. It's the very first element of the comp plan, and it was they didn't do anything. So I want you to remember that, because these are people that will come and shake your hand and ask for you to vote for them. Okay? Some of them. Who was here for the candidate forum? Does anybody remember the question? Michelle was very smart in how she worded the questions in the lightning round. She first asked, how many of you would vote to upzone the shopping center to 6 stories? They all said no. How many would vote to upzone the shopping center to 5 stories? They all said no. And who was here was Lynn Robinson, who was mayor at that time, Claire Samatawaria, Jared Newenhouse, and Noreen Breyer, who's brand new. She's brand new. They all said no. So you watch this vote tomorrow night.
I just want to say that a little bit of this is making me uncomfortable, because I know that some people in the neighborhood have different perspectives. So
you were one of them that were waving your hand.
This is one perspective. I just want you to know that from my perspective, the planning commission and the council are good people who are trying to do good things. So I just want to put that out there.
I can also bring out all of the documents I had, because Ann and I did a public records request. And I do have records that were obtained via public records request, emails between Sue Ball with UCC talking about how Heidi and her buds are just going to have to accept this. That was going to Mike McCormick Huntelman and Tara, as you guys plotted.
Okay, I think we're gonna stop there. So part of it is true. There are different perspectives. If you oppose this upzone, you need to send your email to council, and that's really what it's about. It's about listening to the community and doing what's right for our community. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight, and a special thanks to our guest speakers who gave us some really good information. David's still here, and we appreciate that. And just as a quick reminder, our next event will be the egg hunt. Let us know if you'd like to help volunteer for that, or if you anything about gardens. We need a couple more gardens for the garden tour. And other than that, please do let your voice be heard, and at least get your email into the council.
Ask me about the records that I have.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it.
The soul himself.
Oh, stop. Stop.
Okay,
We got it.
We got it.
Why do you only get to present? We
Yeah.
had an opportunity a few years ago to zone it to 4 stories, and all these people fought it.
One more announcement I forgot to make is the Bellevue Network on Aging,
Trust me, I know
which
what's
I'm
going on.
on. We are sponsoring a Bellevue Police Department scam and fraud alert. It's going to be March 30th, Monday at the North Bellevue Community Center. There's some flyers out back of the North Bellevue. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Guess what happened? The reason why next time you'll get her stuff. I went to Newport High School, really took that. Shopping center, liquor store, burgers, barber shop. Exactly. The whole thing first off, that is